wasn't doing things with other ministries and all kinds of, it's just nonsense. Boy, I wouldn't be 2 feet within anything like that this day. Like, I've learned, these were some of my trial and error learning days. So he was on point with pretty much everything. And so you can see the promises, the prophecy, the prayer of agreement. God is saying, like he said, Hezekiah, when he was sick, the king, and the Lord said to the prophet, go and tell Hezekiah, get your house in order. You're going to die. And the Bible says, he said, Lord, haven't I done this and haven't I done that? And no response from God. But then it says, and then King Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and he wept sore. And before Isaiah could get out the court, God said, turn around and tell Hezekiah that I'm going to heal him and add 15 years to his life. And so when God speaks something, it is going to come to pass. But there are times when Satan will send blockers, what I call blockers, to that promise or to that destiny. And then sometimes if we're not careful, and I have done this too, you can do things to stop or delay the promise, especially speaking things out of your mouth. I learned the hard way when these promises or these prophecies come through. You need to be silent. I mean, I cannot help that these things were spoken openly and they're on recording. This particular ministry, they record it for you and they give you the prophecy, and they still do that to this day, because that was when I was 35. The Lord sent me back there when I was 47. And the same thing happened with 2 other ministers. And they went even more detail. And I mean, this is at a point when all hell was breaking loose in my life. And I have to tell the story how it led up, because I had forgotten all about this ministry. When I was 35, that was the one and only time that I went to this ministry. I had never went back, never thought about it again. And it's like 12 years and God sent me back there. And so, prophecy can be a very powerful tool, but it is so widely confused and sometimes misunderstood. And so I'm only trying to shed some light. Me personally, I am very careful. The Lord has used me to speak some things in people's lives, and I make absolutely certain positively, unequivocally sure because I'm like sometimes stubborn to the point where I'll pretty much won't say it, but then the Lord will bring something out that it will kind of force me to. And it's not always a pleasant situation. I know a lot of people think all prophecies are everything is peachy and creamy good. That is not always the case. But you'll know, like I said, you'll know when God is speaking, because it will identify you. Everything that was being said, I could identify, because I was dealing with the stuff in the job. I was dealing with stuff in this ministry and things like that. So there was nothing far out or far-fetched about what he was saying. He was right on point. And then when he started saying, the Lord's going to bring you out, I didn't come out right away, but I did. And then after a while, after I started seeing this pattern over and over and over again, it really changed my heart and my attitude. And I was just like, oh no, wait a minute. I'm devil. And I know we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. It is spirits that are controlling people and trying to control you. But I stopped allowing things to happen. And I would respectfully say, oh, okay, sorry, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. It's not about, people think, and I went through this with my first licensing, people think when they license you into the ministry that you belong to them. Your time is now theirs. They have to approve of what you do and all of this craziness. And it's like, you didn't call me. God, first of all, I already knew at the age of 12 who I was called to be. God had already spoken and proclaimed that. And not only that, I now have the tape to prove it. It's not just me going around saying that I have all of this word and prophecy. Now I can play the recording for you. I belong to Jesus. He died for me. Nobody got up on a cross for me, and I didn't get up on a cross for nobody. So, we need to get that straight. Nobody called you. It's not their calling. Even if they gave you a piece of paper that they can take back, the calling was never theirs. The calling is what God placed on your life. He told Jeremiah, he said, before you were ever in your mother's womb, I knew you. And I ordained you to be a prophet to the nations. And I spoke about that on another episode, how that verse came to life for me when I was reading that one night. And I just began to cry because I was like, wow, my mother was about to turn 42 a few weeks before she died, just suddenly of an aneurysm. And I was 26 when my mother died. And I said, wow, you knew even before I was in her womb that at 26, I would be without my mother. And yet you called me. You had it spoken over me at the age of 12. You told me who I would be. And so you learn after a while. I had to learn. You have to learn how to walk with God, and you have to learn to trust him, and you have to. It's not optional. All of my early years, my formative years, I was very active in ministry. I was trained in ministry, and things that I was doing in school, especially when I got to Bartram, and I took I was in the 4-year business magnet and cooperative office education program, which just meant I went to school half a day and worked half a day at the Wharton School of Business. And, I was trained in office work, and I learned everything about the office, and it served me through the years because a lot of the positions I've had, I ended up running the offices. I actually went into places. I worked for some good companies, Smith, Klein, and Beecham. I worked for the Philadelphia School Board for a while. I worked for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in the welfare office. I worked for Quest Diagnostics when they merged with Smith Klein. I worked at DHL, and I got a promotion into the international freight department coming into Virginia. That's how I got to Virginia. And so God blessed me. Those skills that I learned early on in school, I used them to run my own businesses, my own daycare. I mean, I've done everything. My skills were transferable. And so, of course, I used them in the ministry. And when I came on staff or worked in a ministry or whatever, they saw the gifts, and it was like, oh, wow, this is great. It was appreciated for a while. I won't even get into the pastor's wife who asked me to join the praise team and then got jealous when I started singing on a praise team and actually said something about me in front of one of the people on the praise team, because she said, man, Sister Stephanie, you are jamming this morning. And then the pastor's wife turned around and said, yeah, showing off. How am I showing off? And we all backing you up. We in the background. I have dealt with so much stuff. And some of you are probably like, wow, stuff like that goes on in church. Absolutely. The devil can use anybody at any time. Any of us, period. And I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there because you need to be aware, especially if you're carrying. I heard a message a long time ago, and I can't think of the title right now, but it's something about, it was Archbishop Duncan Williams. And he said something about the warfare depends on what you're carrying. The enemy knows what you're carrying. And once that word, again, as Bishop Hunter said, once that word is declared over you, you become a target for the enemy. And he is going to put all types of stuff around you, all types of opposition, trouble in your home. Your loved ones will rise up. They won't understand, and all kinds of stuff will be happening. He wants to keep you in financial bondage and just all kinds of stuff. But I'm going to clip this here, and I'm going to pick it up again in the next episode. Hopefully something I shared is helping you. Talk to you again soon.